For 15 years, she lived on the cold streets of New York. Every morning, she sat at the same subway entrance, surviving on loose change from passing strangers. Margaret Williams, 62 years old, was one of society's invisible people. Until that Tuesday morning, when three men in suits found her and delivered news that would change her life forever. Margaret Williams sat at the entrance of the 42nd Street subway station in Manhattan. Same corner, same piece of cardboard, same plastic cup. The routine hadn't changed in 15 years. People walked past her as if she were a ghost, invisible to their hurried lives. "Can you spare $1?" Margaret would mumble, but her voice often got lost in the traffic noise. She made maybe $20, $30 a day, enough for one meal and a hot coffee. Margaret's story was tragic. She once had a happy marriage, a comfortable life. Her husband David was a construction engineer. She worked at an accounting firm. But the 2008 financial crisis came and turned everything upside down. First, David lost his job. Then Margaret's firm closed down. They couldn't make mortgage payments. The house was foreclosed. Savings were depleted. David fell into depression, and one night he left Margaret. He left behind a note. "I'd rather leave than see you like this." Margaret could never forget that night. Alone, homeless, helpless. Shelters were full. Social services were inadequate. Overnight, she had fallen from middle-class life to the streets. The first months were terrible. She didn't know where to sleep. Security guards kicked her out. Other homeless people showed her hostility. But Margaret was a strong woman. She learned to survive. There was a reason she chose the 42nd Street subway entrance. This was where she and David had their first date in 1985. Back then, they were both young and full of hope. Every morning when Margaret sat on that corner, she found comfort in memories of the past. Years passed. Margaret's family looked for her but couldn't find her. Her brother Michael, sister Linda, even distant relatives had searched for her. But Margaret was proud. She didn't want to be a burden on anyone. She chose to live on the streets. By 2024, Margaret's routine was completely established. She woke up at 6 o'clock a.m., washed in the nearby park restroom, then went to her spot at the subway entrance. She bought lunch from the kebab stand and spent evenings at the library. Margaret loved to read. She spent hours reading books in the library, novels, history books, sometimes newspapers. The librarians liked her because she never caused trouble. She sat quietly in her corner, reading. Then there was Kevin, an 8-year-old boy. He and his mother passed the subway entrance every morning. Kevin always said, "Good morning, Auntie," to Margaret. His mother was initially uncomfortable, but eventually got used to it. Sometimes they even brought Margaret sandwiches. "This child is my only friend," Margaret thought. "He sees me as a human being." October 15th, 2024, Tuesday morning. Margaret was sitting at the subway entrance as usual. It was around 9:30 a.m. Business hours had started, people were rushing by. Suddenly, 3 men approached, expensive suits, briefcases. One looked like a lawyer, another like a banker, the third like a real estate expert. "Are you Ms. Margaret Williams?" asked the oldest one. Margaret was surprised. No one had called her by name in 15 years. "Yes, that's me. Is there a problem?" "No, ma'am. Quite the opposite. We've been looking for you for a very long time. My name is James Patterson, from Wilson & Associates law firm." Margaret's heart started beating fast. Had she committed some crime? Maybe sitting on the street was illegal. "Don't worry, ma'am," the lawyer continued. "We have wonderful news for you." "Ma'am, do you remember your great-aunt Eleanor Williams?" Margaret thought. Aunt Eleanor. She remembered from long ago, her father's aunt, a very wealthy woman who kept her distance from the family. Margaret had seen her a few times as a child, but then they lost contact. "Yes, I remember her, but I thought she died a long time ago." Eleanor Williams passed away in 2020 at the age of 98. But her will was very complex. We've been trying to find her heirs for 4 years. The banker-looking man spoke. "Ma'am, Eleanor Williams left you a very large inheritance." Margaret laughed. "Me? Impossible. I never even talked to her." "But she never forgot you," said the real estate expert. "Her will clearly states, 'Margaret Williams is my only true family. I leave everything to her.'" The lawyer pulled out a thick file from his briefcase. Miss Margaret Williams, Eleanor Williams's inheritance consists of the following. First, 5 apartment buildings in Manhattan, total value $45 million. Margaret's mouth fell open. Second, $12 million cash in Chase Bank. Third, various stocks and investments, value approximately $8 million. Fourth, a villa in Long Island, value $3 million, total $68 million. Margaret's world spun. This is impossible. I'm homeless. I live on the streets. Not anymore, said the lawyer, smiling. You are now one of New York's wealthiest women. That day, Margaret's life changed completely. The lawyer set her up in a luxury hotel. For the first time in 15 years, she took a hot shower, slept in clean sheets. The next day, they visited banks. Accounts were opened, papers were signed. Margaret was now a millionaire. But what surprised her most was one of the apartment buildings, the building on 42nd Street, right across from the subway entrance. The building she had sat in front of for 15 years. I own this building? Margaret asked. Yes, ma'am. You've been sitting in front of your own building for 15 years. Tears flowed from Margaret's eyes. How strange fate was. Margaret's first decision was for Kevin and his mother. That little boy was the only person who had shown her friendship for 15 years. She found Kevin's mother. Ma'am, I'm Margaret, the woman from the subway entrance. Kevin's mother, Sarah, was surprised. Margaret, I recognized you, but my situation has changed now. I want to set up a college scholarship for Kevin. If you have financial difficulties, I'd like to help. Sarah started crying. How is this possible? Margaret smiled. Life can be very surprising sometimes. Margaret's story made it to the media. Headlines read, "Homeless woman inherits $68 million" in all the newspapers. But Margaret avoided the media. She just tried to quietly organize her life. Her first task was to visit the library. The librarians couldn't recognize her. With her elegant clothes, neat hair, and makeup, she looked completely different. I'm Margaret, she said. I used to come here all the time. The librarians were shocked. Margaret donated $2 million to the library. Margaret's family heard the news. Her brother Michael tried to reach her, but Margaret didn't want to see him. Where were you when I was on the streets for 15 years? She asked her lawyer. Ma'am, maybe they looked for you too. Did they look hard enough? While I was living on the streets, they continued their comfortable lives. Margaret hadn't forgiven her family, but she decided to think about it. Margaret moved to the villa in Long Island. It was a big, beautiful house. It had a garden, pool, perfect view. But strangely, she was unhappy. For someone who had lived on the streets for 15 years, this luxury was too foreign. Every morning she went to 42nd Street. She looked at the corner where she used to sit. Now another homeless woman sat there. Margaret approached her. Hello, I'm Margaret. The woman was scared. I didn't do anything. No, I want to help you. Margaret established the Margaret Williams Foundation to help the homeless. She opened shelters, distributed food, created job opportunities. I was one of them, she said. I know how they feel. The foundation made a big impact. Margaret was now one of New York's most recognized philanthropists, but she never forgot where she came from. A year later, Margaret decided to meet with her brother Michael. Michael came crying. Margaret, we looked for you so much. We hired detectives, put up posters, but we couldn't find you. Margaret was surprised. Really? Of course. You're our family. We would never abandon you. Margaret then realized. Maybe she had been unfair to her family. They had suffered too. Kevin was now 9 years old. He came to visit Margaret's villa. Aunt Margaret, you're very rich now. Margaret smiled. Yes, Kevin, but my most valuable thing is your friendship. So what will you do now? I'll help children like you. I'll raise good-hearted people. Kevin thought. Would you like me to help too? Of course. Margaret Williams's story shows us that life can spring the biggest surprises at the most unexpected moments. A woman who lived on the streets for 15 years can become a millionaire one morning. But the real message is this: Margaret was valuable even before she became rich. Kevin didn't love her because she was wealthy. The librarians respected her because she was a good person. Money makes life easier, but it doesn't determine a person's worth. Margaret is now 63 years old, happy and peaceful. Through her foundation, she has helped thousands of people. She converted the apartment building on 42nd Street into a shelter for the homeless. And she still visits her old corner every morning. She stands there for a minute, remembering the past. Then she returns to her villa. Because Margaret Williams doesn't forget where she came from. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more incredible true stories. Because sometimes life surpasses even the wildest movies. See you in our next video.